Stress is the cause of all disease, and men are the cause of all stress. MEN is obviously an acronym, but it stands for mechanical stress, emotional stress, and nutritional stress. My name is Dr. Keith Giaquinto, and I have a specialty in internal health. So I take care of the mechanical, the emotional, and the nutritional stress in my practice. Mechanically, I use chiropractic care, stretches, exercises to take care of the structure of the body. Emotionally, I have an emotional breathing release technique that I utilize to help release people's stress from their subconscious instantaneously. It's very, very effective. And then I deal with nutritional part of the body in dealing with diet and helping my patients clean up their diet and eat better, but also with supplementation and enzyme nutrition to help strengthen the digestion system, restore normal balance in the gut and the microbiome so that the body can then get the nutrition from the food that you actually eat. So I take much more of a holistic approach in helping my patients to heal. Now, if we can put health very, very simply, when people come into my practice, when people's bodies are weak and out of balance, you have interrupted communication between your brain and your body, and organs and tissues are malnourished, your body doesn't have a choice. It has to express symptoms and health issues. So that's when people come in to see me and they have these, their body is out of balance and is existing in a weakened state. So my job is to figure out where is that primary source of stress. Is it mechanical, is it emotional, is it nutritional, or is it a combination of all three? And then help to educate them, and we help to strengthen the body with chiropractic care, nourish any organ systems that are malnourished, and put the body back into balance and strengthen it. Because when the body is strong and in balance, guess what? It doesn't have a choice. It has to express health, which is what it is designed to do. And I don't think people realize that. And I tell every single one of my patients when they come in, your biggest asset or your biggest liability is going to be the 6 inches between your ears. It's what you think and believe. So that's a lot of what this talk is going to be about today, in talking about mental health, anxiety and depression specifically. But it can go for any sort of mental health issues, because there's a cause and effect relationship that occurs in the body. When that first domino that falls over, it starts this cascade of events that occurs in the body. Your symptoms and health challenges show up at the 12th, 13th, 14th domino. So if all you're doing is chasing symptoms around the body, you are missing that first domino, and you're never going to heal. You're just existing in a weakened state. So if you're going to put your time, energy, effort, and money into your health, wouldn't you like to know where to focus your energy to get the biggest bang for your buck? That's what I do in my practice, is I look at that first domino, I teach you about it, because everybody is different. And if you can spend your time and energy on that first domino and helping to minimize that stress and support normal function, the body will do what it is naturally designed to do. Okay? So, let's begin. So today, one thing about today, again, I'm going to paint this big picture for you guys. So if you guys are taking notes, what I would ask you to do is just make a list, a master list of what resonates strongly with you that you would like to work on. And at the end, we'll tell you what to do with that. If you haven't filled out the stress survey, please fill that out, because I'm going to be collecting that at the end here when we get done. Okay? And if you have questions along the way, feel free. Raise your hand, ask questions. You know, I'm sure other people have questions too, so feel free to interrupt me at any time. So today we're going to be talking about how to deepen your understanding of how the body works. We're talking about mental health stuff and the two components of that, which is the physiological component, or the body component, and then the psychological component. And then we're going to talk about healthy habits. How do you increase your emotional fitness so that you can learn how to respond to things in your life rather than having that short temper and reacting to things? So let's kind of get started. And this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be going through all of these things. The physiological components: stress, subluxations, poor digestion, blood sugar issues, leaky gut, microbiome, and systemic inflammation. Now, that may seem like it's a lot, but again, we're going to be talking about basic concepts about the body and talking about homeostasis here in a little bit. Now, you don't have to deal with all of them because, again, your body in homeostasis is like the mob. You get to the guy that makes the decisions, everything else will naturally take care of itself and fall into place. So if you take care of the stress, you get chiropractic care to remove subluxations, improve your diet and blood sugar issues, everything else will naturally fall into place. And then we're going to be talking about the psychological component and the 9 different things that go with that. So is the body and your physiology influencing the mind and your thinking? Or is the mind and your thinking influencing the body and the physiology? Because there is this gut-brain connection. And if one of them is off, it's going to be negatively affecting the others. Now, our mind is there to work for us. If you don't have control over your thoughts, then your mind is using you. And that's going to negatively affect your body and your health and your overall being. So let's define health. This definition was done by the World Health Organization back in 1948. And I really like it because it encompasses a lot of things. And they said that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmary. Just because you don't have symptoms does not mean that you are healthy. Can you feel heart disease? Can you feel diabetes or osteoporosis? No, you can't. So health has nothing to do with how you're feeling, and it has everything to do with how you're functioning. And that's what I do in my practice. I deal with function in the body. Because when you have a healthy body and a healthy mind, guess what? You have a happy human. And who doesn't want to be happy? All right. So again, I was talking about health as an expression. Now, when we have 100% function in the body and the body is well nourished, our natural state of being is health and well-being. But what happens is that when we have stress, it decreases the function of our body to a point where it gets below a threshold. Once it gets below a threshold and it weakens the body anywhere between 40 to 60%, you're going to get symptoms. You become symptomatic. And then you may go to sleep, you may take some medicine or whatever, and it takes care of the symptoms, and then you become asymptomatic. But your body is existing in a weakened state. And most people do that throughout their entire life. An example of this. Anybody here get a headache? Yeah. What's the first thing you do when you go take a headache? Take Tylenol, right? So then the headache goes away. Sometimes it doesn't. Does the headache go away permanently? No. Does it come back? Yeah, it does. That's because you didn't take care of the problem to restore function in the body. Same thing with allergies. People have seasonal allergies. They take a Claritin or an Allegra, a decongestion, to help with the symptoms. But do the allergies go away permanently? No, they don't. Because your body is existing in a weakened state. This is what I'm talking about when people hover above that threshold and their body is existing in a weakened state most of their life. And when your body is not functioning optimally, you're actually accelerating the aging process and the disease. So how do we strengthen it? Through getting healthy habits. This is what I do in my practice with my patients, is helping people understand what habits need to be created to help strengthen the body. Now, homeostasis is a big 50-cent word. And basically it's the ability to maintain the body's ability to maintain the consistency of its internal environment despite changes in the surroundings. Now, homeostasis is a machine. You've got 11 different organ systems that have to run this machine, and every organ knows exactly what they need to do. We don't need to outsmart the body. We just got to give it the right support and nutrients so that it can do its job. That's what this is really about. Now, we have these 11 different organ systems, and every single organ system is totally dependent upon nutrition and your body's ability to communicate with the brain. If you have a disruption in that communication between your brain and your body, it throws homeostasis off. And the one thing I want you guys to really understand about homeostasis is that it forces relationships without exception. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, have you guys ever gotten sick? And when you got sick, did you ever lose your appetite? Did you ever curious as to why that happens? Well, this is what we're talking about. It is metabolically expensive for your body to run your immune system. It is metabolically expensive for your body to run the digestion system. So if you have a virus or a bug that's literally trying to kill you with an infection, your brain is going to be like, we don't need to be worried about digesting food right now. We need to conserve all of that energy and put it into the immune system so that the immune system can do its job and beat this bug and this infection. Then, once the immune system gets a handle on that infection, then guess what? Your appetite comes back. This is what I'm talking about with forcing relationships without exception. Another example, you go out for a run. What happens? Well, you start to breathe heavier, your heart starts to pound faster. So those two organ systems are important when you're running, and your body shuns the blood away from the gut and puts it into the extremities. Right? Your brain and your body is not concerned about digesting your food when you're out running. So it forces relationships without exception. Now, when you have more bills than money at the end of the month, who do you pay first? Well, the one that's going to hurt you the most. Okay? Your brain sees this the same way with homeostasis. It's going to rob Peter to pay Paul and put put resources and nutrition and enzymes into this organ system so that you can stay upright against gravity. Now, what runs homeostasis? Something that's called the autonomic nervous system, which the autonomic nervous system, it runs your entire organ system. And there's two different components to that. You've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response, and that type A personality where people just go, go, go all day long. And then the opposite of that is the parasympathetics, the rest, digest, recuperate, and heal mode, or reproduce mode and heal. Now, these two systems that are part of the autonomic nervous system, they sit on a teeter-totter, and they're opposites. So you have your sympathetic nervous system here, you got your parasympathetic nervous system here. Now, if a bear walks through that door, you got to stand here and either fight that thing or run away. So you want that sympathetic nervous system to get stimulated because it's going to save your life. But you shouldn't live there. You're going to exhaust your body and your resources when you become sympathetically dominant. So once this stressful situation, like if you're at work and you got a deadline, you're a project that you're working on, right? You're a little bit stressed, so you're sympathetically dominant. But once it's over, the body should be able to regulate itself and bounce back out because they sit on a teeter-totter. Now, your brain doesn't care if there is literally a bear standing there or if you imagine a bear is standing there. It's still going to stimulate that sympathetic nervous system. And when you are sympathetically dominant, you can't rest, you have a hard time sleeping or relaxing, you can't digest your food, you can't reproduce, and you cannot heal. Now, subluxations. Subluxations are a term that chiropractors use. And I want you guys to kind of understand this because this is really, really important. Let's break down that word. Sub means less than, luxation means dislocation. So basically, what happens is that we have 24 vertebrae from our head to our pelvis. And every single vertebrae needs to move independently of the one above and below it. Now, we have a nerve that comes out from every single level. Each nerve goes to an area of your skin, it goes to a muscle system, and it goes to an organ system. So when we have subluxations due to stress, due to poor posture, poor diet, right? Emotional stress, instead of these vertebrae moving independently, they get stuck and they move together as a unit. And when you have that restriction or that misalignment in your spine, that is what we're calling is a subluxation. And as you can see, right, you get this big opening here where this nerve comes out, but when that disc is degenerated a little bit or that joint's not moving, it can actually compress that nerve. And what happens is that what research shows is that when you have subluxations in your spine, it can decrease electrical transmission along that one nerve anywhere between 40 to 60%. So when is it a good idea to have nerve interference not talking to your skin, muscles, or organs, right? Yeah, never. So if you have, or again, 24 vertebrae, if you've got 15 subluxations in your spine, and you've got, 10% loss here, 20% here, 50% here, 30% here, 40% over here, can you see how cumulatively that's going to add up to a lot of dysfunction in the body? Your body is going to exist in a weakened state. What do you expect the body to do when it exists in a weakened state? It's going to give you symptoms and health issues. So the International Chiropractic Association states that a subluxation is a stress response. And I'll show you in a little bit exactly how that occurs. So subluxations decrease brain-body communication. It causes stress in your nervous system. It causes sympathetic dominance. And it disrupts homeostasis. And when homeostasis gets disrupted, it affects organ systems. And then it weakens the whole body. And that goes for your immunity as well. When homeostasis is disrupted, your immunity gets weaker and you're more prone to infections and illness. All right, so some chiropractic principles. Chiropractic can be summed up in one sentence. The power that made the body heals the body. Subluxations interfere with brain-body communication. Chiropractors remove subluxations to restore this brain-body communication, balances out the homeostasis and the autonomic nervous system, and it strengthens the body so the body can do what it was designed to do, and that is heal. I do not heal my patients. They heal themselves. I'm just there to facilitate that and show them what needs to be done. B.J. Palmer was the developer of chiropractic. And I think he really describes the differences between medicine and chiropractic. Medicine is the study of disease and what caused man to die. Chiropractic is the study of health and what causes man to live. So you can see there really is two opposite trains of thought there in thinking about how to approach health. Now, how the brain works. Your brain is there to monitor, coordinate, regulate, and direct every cell, tissue, and organ in the entire body. But it has to receive the correct information from the body in order to do that. Once it receives the correct information, the brain has to process that, it has to adapt, and then it sends the appropriate response down the spinal cord, out through the spinal nerves to the rest of the body, so homeostasis can maintain itself. And your spine has a very intimate connection with the brain. Now, when we have stress, stress causes subluxations in the spine. Subluxations interfere with that communication and causes dysfunction in your nervous system. The brain can't adapt and respond appropriately, and when it can't do that, homeostasis gets out of balance, and that gives you symptoms and health challenges. It really is that simple. So as I said, stress is the cause of all disease, and men are the cause of all stress. So let's dissect that a little bit. So when I talk about mechanical stress, we're talking about subluxations, which we just talked about. We're talking about poor posture, right? People walking around all day like this, okay? That can negatively affect the nervous system. Emotional stress, we're talking about relationship issues, relationships with other people, whether it be a family member, friend, coworker, or boss. But it also has to deal with your relationship to you. How kind are you to you? Sometimes we are our worst critic, and we really talk negatively to ourselves. So if you had a friend that talked to you the way that you talk to yourself sometimes, would that person be your friend anymore? Yeah, probably not. So why do we think it's okay for us to talk to ourselves like that and be hypercritical and judgmental upon ourselves? Other forms of emotional stress, right? Finances or money, anxiety, depression, mental health stuff. Ruminating thoughts, overthinkers, worriers. We have any of those in the room? Yeah. Well, why? Why do you do that? No, I'm kidding. We'll get into that in a little bit. Well, we distinguish thoughts from thinking. And then we have nutritional stress, which is diet and what's on the end of your fork, but also your body's ability to digest, absorb the nutrition from the food that you actually eat. Just because you put food in your mouth and you swallow it does not mean that it gets digested, does not mean that it gets absorbed, and that nutrition gets to your organs and your tissue. There's so many patients that come into me that have a very clean diet. They exercise regularly, but yet they still have all these health issues. It's not a question of their diet and their lifestyle. It's a question of how is their body functioning. And obviously it is functioning at a weakened state, or else their diet and lifestyle will get a better performance from their body. All right. I want you guys to really understand this slide, because this is going to be the source of everything that happens in the body and the mechanisms of how the body gets sick. So again, mechanical, emotional, nutritional stress. It does not matter to your brain what form of stress or what combination you have, because you could have a little bit of all of them. Your brain and your body are going to combat stress the exact same way every single time. And it's going to do it two ways. The first way is that it's going to require more nutrition. So you're going to burn more nutrients in the body. When this happens, you're going to have nutritional deficits. The second thing that it does is that it creates more waste. So the internal environment becomes toxic. So if your organ systems and tissues are malnourished, then they can't heal or do their job. If the internal environment is toxic and your body is inflamed, you are not in a healing state. You won't be able to heal. And when you have these two deficits and imbalances going on, how does the body express that? It does it one way and one way only. Through muscle contraction. This is where subluxation and posture issues come into play. Now, where is that muscle contraction going to show up? Wherever the weakest link is in your body. It can be in your calf, your thigh, your hips, low back, mid back, upper back, neck, jaw, wherever it may be. Okay? And when we have subluxations, it causes nerve interference and stress in your nervous system and decreases communication. So when your body is malnourished, when it's toxic, you've got muscle contraction and subluxations and interference in the nervous system. Isn't this like the ideal situation for your body to have health problems, disease and symptoms? So what does this look like in real life? So let's take the mechanical, for example. Let's say you are cleaning out the garage. You're moving a bunch of stuff, okay? A bunch of heavy stuff, and you tweak your low back. All right, well, we have a mechanism of injury. Patients come in to see me when that happens. So if it's purely a mechanical issue, then a mechanical solution should take care of it. So getting adjusted, putting an electric stim on it, doing some muscle work, doing some stretches, doing some posture rehab to help balance out the mechanics of the low back and the pelvis. If it's purely a mechanical issue, then the mechanical solution should take care of it and take care of it relatively quickly. Then 2 to 4 weeks, it should be at least 50%, if not 100% better. That's how long a healthy body takes for it to get back into balance. Now, if the mechanical solution is only a temporary fix where you only feel better for a few hours or a few days at best, then the symptoms come back at the exact same spot. They come back at the exact same intensity. Then you've got to look either emotionally or nutritionally to take care of that issue. So there are certain nutrients that the body needs for healing, right? Enzymes to help with inflammation, protein, vitamin C, things like that. And if you have an underlying digestion issue that you can't get that nutrition to where it needs to go, the raw material can't get to that tissue, the tissue has to stay damaged and broken. You're not going to heal. So that's what we're talking about with a mechanical issue. Now, most of my patients when they come in have a lot of emotional stuff that's going on. And this is where the breathing release technique that I do really helps to release that stress from their subconscious. And I'll give you an example of that. I had a patient who works from home, sits at a desk all day, and he's on the phone and on his computer all day long. And what'd you say? It seems like you.
I said it wasn't me.
Well, he just got a tremendous amount of work and projects dumped on his desk that he has to do. So his emotional stress went through the roof. How did that manifest in his body? Well, he got intense neck pain, radiating pain down into his arm, and a very extreme headache. So he comes into me, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go around the horn and see where it's at. So I took a primary and mechanical approach to this problem for 2 weeks. I adjusted him. I got in there and massaged his neck, massaged his arm, put electric stim on there. After 2 weeks of treating, his pain level did not change at all. I'm like, all right, we need to take a different approach. So they come on, get on the table, and let me check your emotional stress. And that's what was positive. It was positive in his body. So, all right, let's do this breathing release technique on him. And before I did anything else, so I did this release on him, had him sit up, and he looks at me and he's like, what did you do to me? Like the pain in his neck was gone just by simply releasing the emotions. Because we have our conscious mind and we have our subconscious mind. And everything that kind of happens to us is on an emotional or energetic level. And if we don't process our emotions efficiently and we stuff it down into our subconscious, that's where it starts to ruminate in that subconscious mind, and it can manifest anywhere in the body, wherever your weakest link is. So just by shining awareness on what's bothering you and bringing it to the conscious level and trying to process that appropriately, that is enough to get that out of the body. So there's this technique that I do that helps that. And then the nutritional. If there is an organ system that is malnourished, let's just say your liver, okay? If your liver is not functioning properly or is congested and requires more nutrition to do its job, the nerves that innervate that are in the mid-back there on the right side. So if you have mid-back pain on that right side, and I adjust you, and I adjust you, and I massage you, and I do electric stim on there, and it doesn't get rid of that tightness or that pain there, then we got to look to the liver and feeding the liver for that to loosen up. So I really want you guys to understand this, because this is kind of the core of what I do in my practice, how the body gets sick. There's a recipe to it. And if there's a recipe of how the body gets sick, then there has to be a recipe for the body to get well and to heal. Early warning signs of a weakened body. If you develop seasonal allergies, digestion issues, fatigue, headaches, insomnia, you get sick frequently because your immunity is weak, or pain or stiffness in your neck, mid-back, or low back. These are early warning signs of how homeostasis is out of balance, you have subluxations, and your body is existing in a weakened state. Now, causes of anxiety and depression. There is a direct cause and effect. So we're going to talk about the physiological component and the psychological component. Because what your mind says consciously or unconsciously, the body has to respond to. All right. So there's a bunch of research that I want to go through with you guys briefly so you can kind of understand the bigger picture. I want to kind of go through the physiological component relatively quickly because the meat and the potatoes is the psychological component. That's what I really want to hit with you guys today. So the physiological component, we're going to talk about the gut-brain axis, blood sugar problems, the microbiome, inflammation, and subluxations, what we've just talked about. All right. So the gut-brain axis is a bidirectional link between the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system. Now, the enteric nervous system is the nervous system that is in your gut. The 50-cent word for that is the enteric nervous system. Now, these two nervous systems, your brain and the enteric nervous system, they talk to each other by direct and indirect pathways between cognitive and emotional centers in the brain with intestinal functions. It involves this complex crosstalk between your hormones, the immune system, and the autonomic nervous system, which we just talked about. This study found that a strong correlation between hyperglycemia and increased symptoms of depression. People with elevated blood sugar levels often experience symptoms such as irritability, fatigue, mood swings, which can exacerbate depression symptoms. Hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, triggers a stress response in the body, releasing adrenaline and cortisol, which are known to induce anxiety symptoms. This research demonstrates that hypoglycemia can increase anxiety and irritability by causing physiological stress on the body, which over time can contribute to developing anxiety disorders. This study found that disruptions in the microbiome in the gut is associated with mood disorders like anxiety and depression. Researchers discovered that individuals with anxiety and depression often had altered gut microbiome, suggesting a link between digestive health and mental well-being. This study found that gut bacteria can alter brain chemistry. The researcher found that eliminating all the good bacteria in mice, the mice tend to act in ways that mimic human anxiety, depression, and autism. In one of his studies, 2 strains of bacteria were more effective than an antidepressant in treating anxiety and depression orders. High levels of inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein are more likely to experience depression. Researchers suggest that chronic inflammation might affect brain function and increase vulnerability to depression by impacting mood-regulating chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. This research shows that chronic inflammation contributes to anxiety by affecting neural circuits involved in emotional regulation. They found that elevated inflammatory markers were associated with increased anxiety symptoms, suggesting a direct link between inflammation and anxiety disorders. You guys getting the picture yet? Right? Microbiome, inflammation, blood sugar issues, they're all kind of contributing to anxiety and depression issues. So let me kind of just summarize this. So we have stress, right? Men, mechanical, emotional, nutritional. When we are under stress, it releases stress hormones in the body. It can cause sympathetic dominance and adrenal exhaustion, and it's going to create subluxations. Now, your adrenals are responsible for stress, but their other main function is to help regulate your blood sugar. So if you're under so much stress that your blood sugar is up and down and up and down, and your adrenals are exhausted, yeah, you're going to be more moody, more irritable, have more prone to more anxiety and depression issues. Absolutely. But what can also contribute to that is a poor diet. People who eat a lot of ultra-processed food, refined carbohydrates, and sugar, and drink caffeine all day long are going to burn out your adrenals and cause inflammation in the body. When you have that poor diet, it's going to lead to poor digestion and blood sugar issues. You're going to have leaky gut and inflammation and a dysbiosis, which means the microbiome is going to be out of balance. And if you want more on that, I have a whole PowerPoint lecture on my YouTube channel that dissects the whole digestion system. That's why I'm just kind of touching on it here. Leaky gut and inflammation in the gut leads to systemic inflammation in the entire body. And when you have systemic inflammation, your brain gets inflamed. You cannot separate two. So if your gut's on fire, your brain's on fire. And that's going to lead to emotional stuff, mental health, anxiety, and depression. It's all connected. So some symptoms of adrenal fatigue. You've got blood sugar issues. Anybody here ever notice when your blood sugar crashes, what happens to you? What's that? You get tired, right? Exactly. What else happens? Anybody get the word hangry? You know what that means, right? You're hungry and angry at the same time, so you become more irritable. Sometimes, this has happened to me, not often, but every now and again, like when I know when my blood sugar starts to drop, like I cannot think. Like I can't make a decision, I can't think about anything, like I need food now, right? So this is pretty serious stuff. Another thing when your adrenals is that you become lightheaded, you start to get dizzy a little bit when you miss meals. You become more prone to anxiety and depression, or more moody. You have insomnia, where you have a hard time staying asleep. You fall asleep fine, but then you wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and you're like, all right, why am I awake? Hello? Need to go back to sleep. Anybody? So you can't stay asleep. Fatigue, which we talked about. And here's another thing. You crave sugar and salty foods, like chips or popcorn. That is an indication that your adrenals are out of balance. And an overuse of caffeine. You need caffeine, whether you're drinking coffee or Red Bull or Monster drinks, whatever has caffeine in it to get you through the day, right? Your adrenals are exhausted. And then obviously digestion symptoms like heartburn, indigestion, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, food sensitivities, and people that have IBS, Crohn's, or colitis. All right. So again, we do not need to outsmart the human body. We just need to support it in such a way. And again, homeostasis, it knows exactly what to do every single time. You have the autonomic nervous system that is regulating that. So if you take care of your stress, clean up your diet, get adjusted, improve digestion, clean up any leaky gut or inflammation in the gut, restore the microbiome, right? Everything else will naturally fall into place. So we have stress causing nutritional deficiencies and excessive waste. When these two things happen, you're going to have muscle contraction and subluxations. Nutritional deficiencies and excessive waste leads to enzyme deficiencies. And what are the two main systems in the body that run on enzymes? Your digestion system and your immune system. When you become deficient in enzymes, it leads to inflammation in the body and a toxicity. You get lymphatic congestion, and then you get brain inflammation. So how do we correct this physiological component? Like we just kind of talked about, but I just want to summarize it here for you. First thing is you have to manage your stress. Is it mechanical? Is it emotional, nutritional? You have to identify where is that primary source of stress. Because if you do not find where that primary source of stress is at, and you do not minimize it as much as possible, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to heal. It really is that simple. So the first thing you got to do is identify where it's at and minimize it. Get chiropractic care to strengthen the nervous system and balance out homeostasis and the autonomics. Exercise. Exercise is the most underutilized form of anxiety and depression medicine. People just got to get out and move. Learn how to meditate or journal. Nurture your inner child. Give yourself permission to play. Right? As adults, we kind of take on a lot of responsibilities and we kind of get stressed out with life, but we got to learn to chill out a little bit. Do something that brings you joy. And it can be anything. Some people, it's like getting together with friends, sitting down watching a movie, reading a book, playing an instrument, playing with your dog, playing with your kids, your grandkids, like whatever it is. Find whatever that is for you and nurture your inner child. And then you have to heal the gut. Healing the gut is the utmost importance. Cleaning up the diet, taking digestive enzymes, and using supplementation to restore the lining of heal the lining of the intestine and leaky gut and support the adrenal glands. All right. Your lives will continue to stink until you find your center. I'm going to start a new therapy business where I whisper jokes to people with anxiety. I'm going to call it Calmity. So speaking of jokes, today is what? May 4th, right?
Yeah.
So what day is it?
Star Wars.
Star Wars Day, exactly. So where did Luke get his cybernetic hand from? A second-hand store. All right. Just a little break.
Don't quit your day job.
Thanks, Cheryl. I hear that all the time. All right. Your mindset is everything. Now we're going to shift gears into this psychological component. There are 9 thinking pitfalls that us as human beings, we fall into. And we're going to go over them. Scatterbrain, self-doubt, low self-esteem, being insecure, fear, comparison to others, obsession with the future, victim mentality, life is meaningless, wanting to control things, and thoughts versus thinking. And what's the difference? So let's start there. But before we do you want to know what the biggest secret about stress is? 100% of stress is self-induced, meaning we cause our own stress. So wouldn't you like to know how to hack your mind so that you have less stress and suffering? Well, buckle up because we're about to go on a ride. What you talking about? All right. So, human beings, would you guys agree that we are spiritual beings having a human experience? Would you guys agree with that? We are not just our physical body. There's an emotional component, there's a nutritional component, and there's a spiritual component to us. You can call it your soul, right? What is our intuition? You ever thought about that? Like, where does that wisdom and guidance from our intuition come from? So, spiritual? Yeah, exactly. So, you know what your intuition is, that gut feeling that you get. Like, something is just off here, I don't know what it is, but I'm getting information that I do not need to be here, or this is not good, right? So that is your higher self. Your intuition is your higher self. Some people will call that God, the universe, source, whatever. But understanding what your intuition is and where that comes from, most people want to take their guidance and stuff from outside themselves. When if we just learn how to quiet our mind and look inside, we'll have all the information we ever need from inside. The question is, can you hear your intuition, or is your mind yapping and yapping and yapping to a point where you can't hear it? Health and well-being is the body's natural state. Peace, love, joy, and gratitude is our natural state of being. It's learning how to flow through life, right? It's not about trying to control everything or want this and have our high expectations. It's learning how to just flow with things. Connecting to your higher power, like I talked about, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. But there is a higher power that is guiding us. And to be human is to make mistakes, right? That's part of being human. But these mistakes are important to us. So you have to learn what the lesson is from what's happening to you, adapt, grow, and develop your character to be able to expand your capacity. Because we're either growing or we're dying. We're never staying in the same place, right? If you have a plant, you either water it so it can grow, you give it sunshine so it can grow, or if you neglect it, it's going to be dying. Same thing with us as humans. We're either growing or dying. So are you actively engaged in your life and know where you're going in life and have a sense of purpose and intention, or are you just kind of idling by and just, I don't know, just being? All right. Thoughts versus thinking. Thoughts are an energetic mental raw material we use to create our world. We can't experience anything without thought. Thoughts take no effort or force on our end. It just happens. They come from a place beyond our mind, the universe, if you will, your intuition, your higher self. Thoughts are neutral. They do not cause emotional turmoil. And thoughts are creative and expansive in nature. Versus thinking. Thinking is the act of thinking about our thoughts. You are actively engaging with your thoughts. It takes a significant amount of energy, effort, and willpower to think. And you have a finite resource of that. Your brain is 3% of your total body mass, but yet it consumes 20% of your energy. So if you are constantly thinking all day long about stuff and having ruminating thoughts, you are depleting your body of the nutrition and disrupting homeostasis. So there's a finite resource when it comes to thinking. Here's the thing, you don't have to engage with each thought, but when you do, that is thinking. Thinking causes emotions. When we start to think about things, this is where emotions come into play, where you can experience self-doubt, unworthiness, anxiety, depression, guilt, shame, anger, whatever, okay? And thinking destroys. It's constrictive in nature. So I want to take you through a little thought experiment right now. And I want you guys to be aware of what your experience is. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So just kind of be aware of your experience. I want you guys to think about what would be the dream amount of money you would like to make per year. Take a few moments and just think about that. Now I want you to times that number by 5. This is your new dream amount of money that you're going to make per year. Now take a moment and think about that bigger number. So let's review what happened. When I asked you to think of a number, how easy and effortless did that number pop into your head? Right? It really didn't take anything. A number just popped in. Oh, I want to make X amount of money. But then when I asked you to times that by 5, if you're like most people start to think about that, well, that's a way bigger number. Am I even worthy of that number? Most of my family doesn't make that amount of money. Am I worthy of that? I don't even know how I'm going to make that much money. So you can see, as you're thinking about a certain number, those ruminating thoughts kind of come into play. Now, when I asked you to think about a number, and a number popped into your head, did that elicit a feeling response at all? No, because it was neutral. But when I asked you to think about the bigger number, what starts to happen? When you start to ruminate and think about that stuff, that's where those feelings kind of come into play. Kind of interesting, huh? So I learned that in this book that I've been reading, Don't Believe Everything You Think. And I've got a couple of books here I'm going to be raffling off here at the end.
I was going to say, I remember that question from that book.
Yeah, exactly.
I have it.
Exactly. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why are our thoughts negative?
Good question. I'm going to get that in a couple slides. So thinking is the root cause of all of our psychological suffering. So positive thoughts. Thoughts that feel good are not the result of thinking. They're generated by our natural state of peace, joy, and love. They're the byproduct of the state of our being. They are not a byproduct by our thinking. We are only ever one thought away from peace, love, and joy, which comes from the state of no thought. Now, negative thoughts. You're ahead of me. We can only ever feel emotions from what we are thinking. We can only ever feel negative emotions when we are thinking. The goal isn't to stop having negative emotions. Sometimes they are good for us. Like if you're walking in a street at night by yourself and you need to walk down an alley and something tells you, don't walk down there, right? That's a good thing. Listen to your intuition and go a different way. So it's not about eliminating negative emotions or thoughts altogether, because sometimes they serve us, okay? But when you start to think about things and ruminate about things, that's where we get into problems and have trouble. The intensity of negative emotion we feel is directly proportional to the amount of thinking we are doing at the moment. It isn't the content of our thinking that causes us stress, but that we are thinking. So you want to feel better? Thinking disconnects us from our higher power. So stop thinking and end all your problems. So again, it's learning how to just flow through things, okay? And kind of observing your thoughts like you would your posture. And remember, you don't have to actively engage in any thoughts or thinking. So if you're starting to feel negative emotions or feeling upset about stuff, and again, it's not about being perfect. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still working on the stuff I got to work on. So we're never actually ever arrive like, all right, I'm here, I'm enlightened, I'm conscious, I'm done working. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. Spoiler alert, by the way. All right. So we're going to go through the rest. Now that you understand what thoughts versus thinking is, we're going to go through other ways that we think that can cause us suffering. One of them is by not being present. You ever sit and try to talk to somebody and they're very scattered? Like they're just all over the place, right? You can't really have a conversation with them because they're simply not present. So this book, The Power of Now, changed my life for the better. And in this book, on page 61, Eckhart states that unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry, all forms of fear are caused by too much future and not enough presence. On the flip side of that, guilt, regret, resentment, grievances, sadness, bitterness, all forms of non-forgiveness are caused by too much past and not enough presence. In other words, all we have is right now. If you are more on the anxiety side or worrier, it's because your mind is in the future. If you are more on the depressive side, bitter or angry, your mind is more in the past. So too much future and too much past, you are draining your body of those resources, causing muscle contraction, disrupting the autonomic nervous system and homeostasis. You're going to have health issues. Let's look at it this way. Let's say you have about 100 units of energy to get through your entire day. And you wake up in the morning and you go and get in the shower. But you have this deadline at work that's at the end of the week that you're stressing out about. So you're thinking about that and ruminating about that. All right, there goes 20 units of energy right there. You had a fight with your sister last night or a family member last night, and you're still kind of fresh from that wound and emotionally upset about that. All right, there's 20 more units gone right there. So you're not even done your shower, and you got 60 units of energy to get through the rest of your day. So you see how thinking about stuff and being emotionally upset and things like that can really disrupt your entire being. So it's learning how to be present. And I used to be the king of anxiety. When I got out of school, I moved out to Santa Monica. I had my chiropractic clinic out there, and I'm like, great. What do I do now? I don't know how to run a business. So literally for the first 3 years, I would go to work on my patients, manage the business, go home, eat dinner, and pass out from mental exhaustion. 3 years. It sucked, right? Then I came across this book, and I'm like, all right, I really need to learn how to master being present. Because just worry, anxious all the time. And when I got this book and read it, I really studied this book and I put it into practice. And when I was able to master being 100% present all day long from moment to moment, I was amazed at how much energy I had at the end of the day. So learning how to be present is really, really important because all we have is right now. How do we practice being present? Well, the one thing you can do is breathe. Take some deep cleansing breaths because that is the one way that we can stimulate, one of the ways we can stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system to calm the body down is by taking deep breaths. Use your senses. If you know you're a little bit scattered and you're not present and you're thinking about this or dwelling on that, use your senses. What do you smell in the air? If you're walking outside, do you smell the ground and the dirt? Do you smell any fragrances or flowers in the air? What do you see? What do you hear? What can you feel? Sitting on a chair there, feel the chair underneath you. Feel the ground underneath your feet. Use your senses to get you back into that present time consciousness. Where is your focus and your energy? Is it out here beyond yourself, or are you focused inward on you? Meditate. Learning how to meditate is one of the biggest things you can do to help manage your thoughts. We got to think of our mind as like a muscle. And if you don't exercise and strengthen that muscle, then it's going to use you. Just like we physically exercise our body, we have to exercise our mind and be able to have control over our thoughts and our thinking. Because if you don't have control over your thoughts and your thinking, then your body or your mind is using you and it's going to perpetuate your health problems. Learning some Tai Chi, Qigong, doing yoga can also kind of help to practice that. So there's different things that you can do to help manage your thoughts. Self-doubt, low self-esteem. This kind of comes back to understanding where you're going in life, right? Learning how to make a decision. It is very easy for us to make a decision. We can make a decision in a split second. But then what happens is that the next minute, the next hour or day or week, we try to talk ourselves out of that decision, right? It's human nature. So if you're going to make a decision about something, make the decision and then support it with 100% of your efforts. Let go of the need for outside approval, right? We want the approval of others because we want to be liked. I got news for you. We're not here to be liked by everybody. We're not. So be okay with that. It's none of your business what other people think of you. Again, where is your focus? Is it outside yourself or is it on what you got to do? Have a vision of what you want. Set a goal. Where are you going in life? Clarity. Clarity is the first law of success. If you're not clear on what you want, then how do you know what to go after or when you're there? Take action. And remember to be kind to ourselves along the way. Put down the judge and the inner critic and just let them go. They no longer serve us. Because Frank said it best, confidence is king. Action is the road to self-confidence. Take one small action and let that action lead to confidence. And let that confidence create energy towards more action. And from a snow melt, a surging river will form. Who said that? One of my idols, Bruce Lee. He was a mountain of a man, not just physically what he was able to do with his martial arts, but intellectually, he was way ahead of his time. Confidence. Confidence is not, will they like me? Confidence is, I'll be fine if they don't. Fear. Fear disrupts the entire makeup of the human being, our body, our mind, and our soul. I think that was pretty evident in 2020 when toilet paper flew off the shelves, right? Fear paralyzes growth. Fear is a sickness that slowly eats away at you. And what are people fearful of? Fear of failure, fear of the future, fear of the unknown. So you can take the word fear and you can take two things from it. It's either false evidence appearing real or face everything and rise. That is a choice. So are you going to let fear keep you small, or are you going to face fear and grow through it? So how do you beat fear? Well, you don't. You learn how to tame it. People who take risks and are more successful do not feel, it's not that they don't feel fear, is it that they feel it and they move through it. They don't let it stop them or paralyze them. If you're fearful about something, then educate yourself. Learn more about it. Have the courage to grow through it. And have faith that everything will be okay. Right? Take action. And learn how to fail forward fast. Right? Again, to be human means to make mistakes. So it's about learning the lesson from the mistake, because if you don't learn the lesson, guess what? It's going to come around again, and then again. And once you make the mistake 2, 3, 4 times, it's no longer a mistake, it's a choice. So learn how to fail forward fast. Because Churchill said it best, success consists of going from one failure to another without the loss of enthusiasm. I'm like, that is an excellent quote. Comparison others, right? Enter stage right, social media. We try to compare ourselves with other people. And we beat ourselves up because of, well, look at this person, they're doing this, and look at that person. It's like, you can't compare yourself to anybody else. Everybody's situation is different. The only one you're in competition with is you. So are you a little bit better today than what you were yesterday, last week, last month, last year? And you know what? Every day is not going to be sunshine and rainbows. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks. You may have bad months or bad years. But have faith that you will be okay. And just move through it. Just learn the lessons. And stop comparing yourselves to others. Again, that inner critic and that judge, you got to get away with them. Obsession with the future is another way that our thinking causes us suffering. People become so attached to a destination or an endpoint. I want this outcome to occur, right? And you are trying to control and resist, and I want that to happen. Well, how much are you stressing yourself out because of that? You have no control over the outcome of anything. I had a patient come in where she was living in a one-bedroom condo with her dog, and she really wanted this house. And she put a bid in for this house because she wanted to upgrade it. It was time for her to upgrade. She came in, she was like, I want this, blah, 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 I want this, I want this. She's stressing herself out. And I'm like, well, would you like some perspective on that? It's like, do you have control over whether or not you get this house? No. If it's your time to have this house, it's going to happen. Pretty easy and seamless. Okay? If it's not your time, then it's not your time. Something better may be coming along in the future. But because you have no control over the outcome of this, why are you stressing yourself out? Just let go. Learn how to surrender to that process and shift your perspective on one of the endpoint and being attached to the outcome to one of enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, and learn how to co-create with what you want in your life. Because if we shift about that perspective from being attached to the outcome to one of co-creation and journey, like, enjoy it. That's what it's about. Enjoy the process of growth. We only have the right to our labors, not the fruits of our labors. So again, you have no control over the outcome of anything. And learn how to surrender to the process. Allow things to naturally unfold in the time that they're supposed to unfold. You have no control over when they're going to happen. Because at the end of the day, you only have control over three things: what you think, what you say, and what you do. Victim mentality. I think it's pretty easy to spot people that have this, right? They always blame others for their problems. They justify their situation. They're always complaining about something. They deflect responsibility. So if any of this is you, and you expect others to fix you, you got to learn how to break the cycle. You have to take responsibility. No one's coming to save you. It is up to you and you alone to do what you want, right? And to develop your character and to go after what you want in life. Life is meaningless. Just like thoughts, everything that happens to us is neutral. Nothing has power over it unless we choose to give it power. So there's good things and bad things that happen to us all the time. What makes them good or bad? Well, it's what you choose to give power to. If something bad is happening to you, then or something happens and we take it in and we process it and we observe it and we run it through our book of truth, we can have a choice. This is positive, this is a negative thing. Okay? I feel like nowadays people are going out of their own way to be offended by every little thing. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. So when something bad is happening to you, is it really a bad thing? Or is it just an adversity or a challenge that's there to teach you a life lesson? And are you learning what that lesson is? Which kind of brings me back to this story about the Chinese farmer. There's a little Chinese farmer that lives in a small little village, and he has a horse. And one day, his horse runs away. So everybody from the town comes by that night, and it's like, oh, what a terrible thing that happened. Your horse ran away. He's like, well, Good or bad? We don't know yet. The next day, the horse comes back with 2 other wild horses. So now he has 3 horses instead of 1. Everybody comes by his house that night. Oh, what a good thing that happened. Now you have 3 horses. Chinese farmer's like, good or bad? We don't know yet. The next day, his son tries to tame one of the wild horses, falls off and breaks his leg. Everybody comes by the house that night. Oh, what a bad, terrible thing that happened. Your son broke his leg. Chinese farmer, good or bad? We don't know yet. The next day, civil war breaks out in the country, and the government enlists all able-bodied men to join the military. And his son couldn't go. Everybody comes by, oh, what a good thing that happened. Your son wasn't able to. And Chinese farmer is like, good or bad? We don't know yet. So you can see this can go on and on and on. And it really is about perspective. Because in the moment, you may not know what the reason is that you're experiencing that. And you can see that the Chinese farmer, he just flowed with it. But his town was trying to say, hey, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, this is good. But you don't have to engage or listen to that. So everything in life is completely meaningless until we give it meaning. Let go of the need for control. All human beings have a hardwired need for control. We want to control the people around us. We want to control the outcome of situations. And when you do this, you are giving your power away. And you're exhausting your mental capacity and your energy. So learn how to surrender to the process, right? Allow things to naturally unfold in the time that is needed. Adapt as needed. Enjoy the journey. Learn your lessons and take back your power. This is another book that I just got recently that is phenomenal, that I highly recommend, is Mel Robbins and the Let Them Theory. And in this book, she talks about stop wasting your time and energy on things you can't control, like other people's moods, other people's opinions, or other people's actions. Stop exhausting yourself by giving your power away. Focus on the one thing you can control, which is you. And what do you have control over? What you think, what you say, and what you do. This I thought was very powerful. What you're not changing, you're choosing. It's like, wow. So she has a bunch of these things that I thought was very, very powerful. The first time I read this, I was like, yeah, there's so many, like, which one of these or which few of these are you? You are not responsible for other people's happiness. Let them be unhappy. You are not responsible for making people understand your choices. Let them be confused. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions. Let them feel how they feel. You are not responsible for proving your worth to people who don't see it. Let them underestimate you. You are not responsible for meeting everyone's expectations. Let them be disappointed. You are not responsible for rescuing people from their problems. Let them learn from life. You are not responsible for managing everyone and everything around you. Let them be. People want to complain about lots of things in their life. Let them. Like, how powerful is that? It's like, just so good. All right. So how do you change, if you don't like the situation and the results that you're getting right now, how do you change it? Anybody here a friend, a fan of the Friends TV show?
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember what unagi is? Anybody? Well, according to Ross, unagi is a state of total awareness. What is unagi really? It's freshwater eel. It's sushi. So how can we go from unagi to Miyagi? right? So if you have anxiety and depression, right, that's John Kreese looking at Pat Morita. Look at the face on Daniel LaRusso. His face kind of tells you everything. He's in such a state of fear. But look at Miyagi. Look at his eyes. He is the eye of the storm. So it's learning how to be the eye of the storm amongst the chaos that is around you. And you can train yourself to learn how to respond to people rather than react. You will continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you. True power is sitting back and observing everything with logic. If words control you, that means everyone else can control you. Breathe and allow things to pass. Bruce Lee, amazing man. I was reading a book about him. You want to know what emotional fitness looks like? When I read this story, it blew my mind. So Bruce was in LA and he was going out to lunch at a restaurant with one of his friends. And they go and they sit down at a table and the waiter comes over to take their order. And the waiter recognized who Bruce was. So the waiter proceeded then to be extremely rude to Bruce. And Bruce just sat there, took his order, took his friend's order, and he walked away. And his friend turned to Bruce and he's like, "Are you going to take that from him? Like, you're Bruce Lee. Like, you could squash him like that." His response was, "I came into this restaurant in a good mood. Why would I let him take me out?" Just blew my mind when I read that the first time. Like, that's what emotional fitness looks like. All right, so to review, let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. Become a student of you. You really want to understand what makes you tick? Then study you, okay? Gain control of your thoughts. Learn how to be present. Meditate. Have a vision, clarity, goal. Take action on where you're going in life. Fall in love with the process. Detach yourself from the outcome of it. And surrender to it again and again and again. Surrendering may not be a one-time event. When you feel yourself getting all anxious and worked up, just remind yourself, breathe and let go. This too shall pass. Come from a place of strength and confidence. If you're going through your life living in fear and afraid of taking risk and playing small, right? Are you going to have a good life? Are you going to have health issues? Yeah, probably. But if you come from a place of strength and confidence and, open your heart a little bit, you'll have a different outcome of that. Focus on becoming the best version of you. And again, all you've got control over is what you think, say, and do. So how do you train your mind? Read something every day. Read something that is uplifting. I have some books that I'm going to recommend here in a little bit, but there's so much information that's out there. Listen or watch stuff on YouTube. There's so much stuff on YouTube that you can look at and read, even if you just listen to like 10 or 15 minutes a day of somebody. Your mind is like a computer. If all you're doing is feeding it garbage in, garbage out. So you got to feed it positive stuff. Remove distractions. Keep a journal and writing pages. Whenever I start to get overwhelmed with anything, I'll sit down with a blank sheet of paper and I'll write out everything that's in my head. I'll do what's called a brain dump. And once I do that, then I'll look at it and I'm like, all right, this is nothing. This is urgent. I need to do this. So then you can kind of prioritize what that list is. So if you're starting to feel overwhelmed with anything, do a brain dump. This is kind of a good practice too. Like either last thing at night or first thing in the morning, just empty your brain so that you free up some resources to be able to be present throughout the day. Meditate. Can't emphasize enough the importance of meditating. Getting outside your comfort zone. Life begins outside our comfort zone. It's about learning how to feel comfortable with being uncomfortable. When you start to feel uncomfortable, you're kind of stepping outside your comfort zone. Stick to a routine and discipline. and exercise regularly. People always ask me, what's the best exercise to do? My response to that is, well, the one you're going to do, right? If you don't like to go running, then I suggest you don't run. If tennis is more your speed, then go play tennis. Or if it's a yoga class, or if it's joining a gym and taking classes, whatever it is, do the one that you're going to do. So here's some self-development stuff that I recommend. On YouTube, you can look up any of those guys. All great stuff. Books that I recommend: The Four Agreements, Peaceful Warrior, An Open Heart with the Dalai Lama, Don't Believe Everything You Think. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is a great story, and then The Let Them Theory are just a few that have changed my life. You can throw up The Power of Now on there too. So The Peaceful Warrior has also been turned, it was a book by Dan Millman that was turned into a movie. So you might be able to find that streaming somewhere, but phenomenal movie. A lot of great pearls and wisdom in there. All right. The story of the two wolves. So there's an ancient Cherokee story or legend that is the story of the two wolves. And it's how the elders help to educate their children and grandchildren about life. And it's the story of the two wolves. So this elder was talking to his grandkid about this story, and he says, inside man, every man and woman, there is a battle and a war that is going on between the two wolves. The first wolf is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, doubt, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. And then you have the good wolf. The good wolf is peace, joy, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. So his grandchild thought about that for a moment and then asked a very profound question. He's like, Granddad, which wolf wins? And his answer was, the one that you feed. So, are you feeding yourself positivity every day? Where do you kind of fall short in all this? So, if you want to do better, first you got to know what you need to do. And I hope this was kind of helpful, kind of going through some of this stuff. People ask how I stay so positive after losing my legs. I simply ask how they stay so negative with theirs. All right. So this is what we kind of went over, just to kind of review everything. I kind of hope I connected some dots for you guys and made some connections that deepens your understanding of how human beings operate and how your mind works and how your body can influence the mind and vice versa. So where do you start? If you need help with any of this, ask me. You can help, I can come in and can get you evaluated to figure out where the imbalances are on your body. So ask for help. Les Brown says, ask for help, not because you are weak, but because you want to remain strong. So ask for help. Come in and get checked. Start with chiropractic care. Start by exercising. Start by journaling. Focus on creating one healthy habit that strengthens your body and your mind. So in the beginning, I was saying about, make a list of things that resonate strongly with you of this material that I just went over. So if you have a list of 5 or 7 or 10 things, then what I would suggest is focus on one thing at a time. What is the area that you can start with that would be the easiest for you to start and implement? Start there. And then once you've mastered that habit, then move on to the next one. If you create one habit a month, new healthy habit, you'll have 12 new habits at the end of a year. Do you think your life will not change for the better if you implement healthier habits?